In the 5th year of our marriage, my wife, Sophia, lost her memory. Tears streaming down her face, she said in pain, "I only remember that I'm in love with your younger brother, David." My daughter, holding my hand, said, "Dad, please don't blame Mom. She just cares about Uncle. Uncle is such a nice person. You wouldn't have the heart to see him stay single for the rest of his life, would you?" The system also popped up and said, "Host, you're so infatuated. What are you afraid of? Memory loss isn't a big deal. If necessary, we can just win over this infatuated second female lead again." However, including the system, none of them knew that I had died a tragic death in my previous life and had just been reborn today. I calmly lit a cigarette, turned over the photo of our family of 3, looked at the photo of the villainous female in my phone, and said, "System, I want to change my target for winning over. Is that okay?" The system was stunned for a while and then asked, "You can change, but why do you suddenly want to? Sophia just lost her memory, and you two even have a child. If you change the target now, what about your daughter, Chloe?" I sneered. Memory loss? In my previous life, I believed Sophia's lies. I tried every means to help her regain her memory and make her fall in love with me again. However, I witnessed the deepening relationship between Sophia and David. I can never forget Sophia looking at me with red eyes, saying, "I'm sorry, James. Maybe we had many wonderful memories, but I don't remember anything now. My heart only belongs to David." No matter how hard I tried, all I got from her was the apology of a stranger, and she even wanted to negotiate a divorce with me. And our daughter, Chloe, when I was in great pain because I couldn't retrieve Sophia's memory and when I was determined to save our marriage, she firmly stood by her mother's side. She said, "Dad, you always tell me to be helpful. Uncle is so lonely now. What's wrong with Mom helping him? Why are you so stingy? You're so selfish and annoying like this. Even my parents came to persuade me, why do you torture yourself like this? Sophia loves your brother now. She can't remember you. Why don't you just divorce? Anyway, Chloe also likes your brother. Even if you and Sophia divorce, Chloe is still our family's child. What's there to worry about if your brother becomes her father? We're still a family." Later, they started to blame me. "Your brother has been alone for so many years. As an elder brother, why don't you know how to give in to your younger brother? Now he and Sophia are in love with each other. Just because you won't divorce, he has to bear the stigma of being a third party. He's your own brother. How can you be so selfish?" I was speechless. Later, due to being speechless for a long time, I got sick. When I went to the hospital, I saw Sophia leaning affectionately in David's arms. David, holding Sophia, said, "Sophia, why don't we just tell James that your memory loss is fake?" David gently stroked her slightly bulging belly. She was silent for a while and then said, "After all, we've been married for 5 years. We were husband and wife. How can I treat him like that?" David said, "But he keeps delaying the divorce. Your belly is getting bigger, and you can't hide it anymore. Besides, what will we do when the baby is born? Do you want my child to call James Dad?" So, Sophia had never lost her memory. The so-called memory loss was just a lie for her to be with David. And I was like a fool, thinking that she loved me and trying to make her regain her so-called memory. That day, I returned to the empty house alone. At night, I had a high fever. I was extremely speechless and finally died of anger. Just at the moment before I died, a strange mechanical voice sounded in my ear, "Host, the side story strategy failed, and the final ending strategy also failed. However, due to completing the marriage task and obtaining extra points during the main storyline, you get a chance to be reborn. Note that this time, the host system will also be reset to the original timeline and will automatically start next. Countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, there was a side story. It turned out that I didn't succeed in the strategy and didn't escape the plot. In the side story, the male lead, David, divorced the original female lead. David and Sophia, the infatuated second female lead who still loved him after marriage, finally got together. And I was just a stumbling block on their love path, a catalyst for their love, and a person who no one would care about even if I died. Just then, Sophia and Chloe came back. As soon as Chloe saw me, she quickly stood in front of her mother and said, "Dad, don't pull Mom to talk about those past things again today. She's exhausted." Yeah, of course she was exhausted. David officially divorced today, and she took Chloe to help him clean up the house. Thinking of this, I suddenly laughed. Sophia slightly frowned and said, "James, what are you laughing at?" Her eyes stopped on the cigarette in my hand. After all, because she didn't like the smell of cigarettes, I never smoked before. I crossed my legs, leisurely blew out a smoke ring, and said, you know, Sophia, in the past, when I occasionally read novels, I thought the infatuated second female lead was quite cute. But now, thinking about it, what infatuated second female lead? She's just a lovesick fool. I just didn't expect that the child born to a lovesick fool is still a lovesick fool. It seems this kind of thing is hereditary. Chloe was stunned and said, Dad, what are you talking about? How can you call your own daughter a dog? Sophia blushed and said, James, don't say such things just because I went to your brother's new home today. Why are you even jealous of your own brother? Besides, I'm very tired from trying to recall the past every day. Can't I just rest for a while? I said, it's not necessary. Sophia asked in surprise, what? I put out the cigarette in the water and handed her the divorce agreement from the table. I said, I've figured it out. If the memories are gone, they're gone. It's not a big deal. I've already drawn up the divorce agreement, and I've found my next partner recently. Let's help each other out and get divorced. Sophia was stunned for a long time and then asked, what did you say? The system said, host, calm down. Host, you can't handle Olivia, this villainous female. She has an obsessive love disorder. Don't change the target for winning over. I smiled at the system and said, shut up. I just like this type of woman with an obsessive love disorder. I thought, otherwise, who would help me, this villainous male supporting role, bring down the David family and the Sophia family? Sophia said in disbelief, you have a next partner? She stared at me blankly and blurted out, how is that possible? Indeed, in Sophia's eyes, this was of course impossible. Sophia was crazy about my brother and was my brother's admirer. And in the past, wasn't I just Sophia's admirer? I always put her first in everything. I accompanied her when she was sad and took care of her when she was sick. Even to make her feel better when she had a fever, I didn't sleep for days and nights to take care of her. Sophia pursed her lips and said, James, can you stop making up lies to deceive me? I know you may want to make me regret and be jealous by getting a divorce, so you made up this story about an ex-partner. But I lost my memory and don't remember anything. I interrupted expressionlessly, we built the Thunder Enterprise together after marriage. I want 30% of the equity, and the child will be yours. As long as you sign, we'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau immediately. Sophia was stunned again. Chloe asked blankly, what does divorce mean, Mom? Is Uncle going to be my dad? I ignored the mother-daughter pair and opened the door and walked out. The system kept chattering in my ear, no, host, what on earth are you doing? Sophia just lost her memory. She has feelings for you. You're hurting her like this. Shut up. I'm going to the Olivia group now. Change the target for winning over for me immediately. The system said, I can change it, but please don't look for the villainous female. You'll regret it to death. Listen to me. The next second, I directly used 20 points to mute the system. It was too noisy. I went to buy a new set of clothes and put them on, then went to the flower shop and bought a bouquet of flowers. The flower shop owner knew me and asked with a smile, Mr. James, are you buying flowers today to celebrate some special anniversary with your wife? I nodded and said, yeah, I'm going to find a lover. The flower shop owner joked, Mr. James, you're really good at joking. After thinking about it, I didn't drive my own car but took a taxi to the Olivia building. The receptionist saw me and asked, may I ask who you're looking for? Do you have an appointment? I smiled and said, please tell Ms. Olivia that James is here to give her a big gift. I entered Olivia's president's office. I slowly placed the flowers on her desk and said, Ms. Olivia, your desk is quite big, but it's a bit empty. Then I sat back on the sofa and looked around. Olivia sat behind the desk. Her pretty face showed a bit of confusion. She looked up at me, her almond-shaped eyes with a hint of coldness, her long and slender eyelashes trembling slightly, the corners of her eyes raised, looking proudly cold and charming. Her nose was straight, and her lips were soft and moist. The rose-colored lip gloss added a touch of quiet charm to her. She frowned and said, Mr. James, my time is quite precious. I smiled and said, I know. Aren't you busy competing with our Thunder? If I say I'm willing to come and join Ms. Olivia, does Ms. Olivia have any interest? Olivia was stunned for a moment, then suddenly chuckled and said, I've often heard about the things between you and Sophia. For Sophia, you gave up the opportunity to study abroad. For Sophia, you didn't hesitate to break with the David family and start your own business, founding your own clothing design company. Later, in order to save the Sophia family, you were even willing to merge your company into it, thus creating the current Thunder Group. To put it nicely, Mr. James is a good man who loves his wife and can do anything for her. To put it bluntly, I've heard many people say that Mr. James is just Sophia's admirer. I'm afraid you'll end up with nothing in the end. So, Mr. James, what trick are you playing here for Sophia? She got up and walked closer, tilted her head and bent down. Her long hair fell from her shoulders like tassels. Olivia opened her red lips and said, "But it's very dangerous here, Mr. James. Aren't you afraid of entering the spider's den alone and never being able to get out?" Our eyes met, and after a moment of silence, I burst out laughing, shrugged, and said, "Why would I want to get out? Since Ms. Olivia knows that I can do anything for my wife, then you might as well marry me. If you become my wife, do I still need to get out? Besides, you know about the design team in my hand." Olivia snorted, straightened up, and turned her head away. Although she didn't speak, I knew she was tempted, not by me, but by the resources in my hand. In fact, Olivia and I were old acquaintances. The Olivia group she managed was originally the sworn enemy of the Sophia family's group. Later, it almost made the Sophia family go bankrupt completely. The reason for its revival was that I merged my own founded company and design team into the Sophia family's group. Sophia was not good at business, so I stood in front for her. So over the years, I had fought with Olivia several times, with wins and losses on both sides. And Olivia was also the person Sophia hated the most. She sat back, thought for a while, and then said, "Mr. James, you're joking. I'm not interested in other people's husbands." I got up, walked in front of her, looked at her, and asked, "What if I divorce Sophia?" She was slightly stunned and said, "Well, that can be considered." Olivia smiled and continued, "However, Mr. James, you should know that I can't tolerate betrayal. In my case, there's no divorce, only being widowed. In my opinion, marriage is indeed an effective contract, but if Mr. James wants to marry me, you can't just come with a person and a mouth, right?" I smiled and said, "Ms. Olivia, you're overthinking. I have almost all the important customer resources of Thunder. In addition, I personally followed up on the core contracts of several recent big orders. You understand what I mean. If that's not enough, the clothing design team I built with my own hands consists of top-notch talents in the industry. Besides, I'll also claim the equity I deserve. How about it? Can Ms. Olivia handle it?" Olivia agreed to my conditions. In the following days, I simply moved out of the house and started preparing for various things after the divorce in advance. Sophia and Chloe didn't look for me. Presumably, they were having a good time with David. One day, I went back to get a forgotten clothing design drawing. As soon as I opened the door, I found it was very lively. Chloe was crying wronged in my brother's arms. My parents were furious, and Sophia was also very unhappy. As soon as my father saw me, he started scolding, "How dare you come back? You don't care about the child, and you don't care about your wife. How could I have raised such a bastard like you? If it weren't for your brother taking care of Chloe recently, we wouldn't have known that Chloe was bullied like that in kindergarten. How do you act as a father? You actually take sides with outsiders." I frowned. David immediately came up and said, "James, it's not that I'm being talkative. Chloe was beaten by a boy in kindergarten. It's fine if you don't beat that person up, but why did you make Chloe apologize?" I said, "If you do something wrong, you should apologize. Chloe called others poor and their parents useless. The child was so angry that he hit her. Besides, Chloe didn't suffer at all. She even scratched the boy's face with bloodstains." David said, "The child was beaten, and you, as a father, say she didn't suffer. You're really something, bro. But it doesn't matter." I gave them a hard time. The next day, they made their child apologize to Chloe. I gritted my teeth and said, "What? You mean that Chloe cursed people, and you backed her up behind the scenes, and then forced the victim to apologize?" Chloe shouted, "He should apologize to me. You're a biased dad, a bad guy. You're not my dad. I want to change my dad." Chloe rushed up to hit me, but I grabbed her and she couldn't move. "James, do you dare to hit the child in front of me?" Before I could react, my father immediately snatched Chloe from my hand. David stood in front of me and said righteously, "James, no matter what, hitting a child is wrong. Just scolding and beating will only make the child afraid of you and won't solve anything." I sneered and said, "So you think you're very good at educating and being a father?" My father gently wiped away the tears that Chloe forced out and said, "Stop talking. We all agree with what your brother did. He knows better how to educate children than you. I really don't understand. Your brother stands up for your daughter, and instead of thanking him, you take sides with outsiders. After all, you didn't grow up with us when you were a child. We were negligent in your upbringing, which made you such an irresponsible husband and father. If you can't take care of this child, let your brother take care of her. It's really interesting. They can't wait, right?" I turned to Sophia and asked, "What about you? Do you think the same?" Sophia turned her head away and softly said, "Eh." I nodded and said, "Okay, that's exactly what I want." I took a deep breath and asked, "Sophia, have you signed the divorce agreement?" David asked in confusion, "Agreement? What agreement?" But then he seemed to remember something, immediately ran to the table, picked up the divorce agreement, looked at it for a while, and then asked, "James, you actually want 30% of Thunder's shares for the divorce? How dare you? You're really audacious." I looked at him and said, "How dare I? I saved the company when it was on the verge of bankruptcy. I negotiated the company's business. I formed the company's design team. Why wouldn't I dare?" David retorted, "Don't brag about yourself. Could such a big company survive just because of you? The achievements of the Sophia family are the accumulation of several generations. It's not easy for Sophia, a girl, to take over the company. To be fair, although you're my brother, are you taking advantage of the fact that there's no one in the Sophia family and bullying her, a girl?" My father followed and angrily scolded, "You don't go home every day and still want to take everything. We, the David family, are really ashamed to have a son like you." I lit a cigarette and started smoking in front of them. I said word by word, I built up the company's business through those drinking sessions. I supervised everything from the company's strategy and planning to every production line, from design to production. Why don't you ask Sophia what she, a mere stamp and signature machine, has done? Seeing Sophia looking guilty and silent, David walked over to her, held her in his arms, and said, "James, being so aggressive towards your own wife, are you still a man?" As he said this, Sophia leaned into David's arms and started sobbing. Sophia choked back her tears and said, "James, although I don't remember you, we were husband and wife. Why are you treating me like this?" With red eyes, she continued, "Thunder is the hard work of several generations of the Sophia family. I really can't agree to give you 30%. What a claim that Thunder is the Sophia family's hard work. Thunder was actually a new company re-established after I merged my company into it. Now it has become the Sophia family's achievement." I was unmoved and sneered, "Are you sure you don't agree?" Sophia wiped her tears and said seriously, "If you're willing to negotiate, I can give you some financial compensation." I looked at her and said, "Fine. I've given you a chance, Sophia. I hope you won't regret it." With that, I found my clothing design draft, slammed the door, and left, hoping never to see anyone in that room again. As soon as I went out, it started pouring heavily. I was speechless. Did it really have to set the mood like this? The system kept chattering in my ear, "See? I told you not to act rashly. Now what are you going to do? It'll be very difficult for Sophia to forgive you again. Shut up." I found a bench and sat down, reaching out to catch the raindrops. Water can carry a boat, but it can also capsize it. In this life, I'm determined to teach those disgusting people what regret means. A company isn't just a cold number, it's made up of people. I'm not obsessed with this 30% equity. Otherwise, going through legal procedures would be a long drawn-out tug of war, a waste of time. My goal isn't to just hit the opponent hard but to completely destroy them. I know very well that to defeat the opponent, speed is of the essence. Otherwise, if it drags on, something unexpected might happen. While I was thinking, suddenly an umbrella appeared beside me, and a soft but slightly cunning voice came, "It seems that Mr. James' divorce isn't going smoothly." I turned my head and was surprised to see it was Olivia. She was holding an umbrella, smiling at me. The system shouted, "She's following you, this evil female supporting character." Olivia asked, "Mr. James, why are you in such a sorry state, like a drowned rat?" She moved closer and held the umbrella over my head. I replied, "Ms. Olivia, you're overthinking. I'm just thinking about how to make the Sophia family go bankrupt as soon as possible, wipe them out in one go, leaving them with nothing, homeless, and separated from their loved ones." Olivia let out a chuckle, then suddenly squatted down and leaned closer to me, saying, "Mr. James already has the next plan. You seem to be quite serious. A serious man is the most charming. I want to go home with you right now." Suddenly, Olivia reached out her hand and intertwined her fingers with mine, saying, "Go get a divorce quickly. I can't wait to marry you and make the Sophia family fall. But James, if you dare to betray me," she whispered in my ear, "I'll make you pay." Host, don't be impulsive. The system was still shouting. The next day, with a bang, I kicked open the door of the president's office of Thunder Group. I shouted, "Divorce." I slapped the new divorce agreement in front of Sophia and said, "Now, I don't need the equity. Sign it quickly." Sophia frowned and said, "James, what on earth are you trying to do?" I gave a few perfunctory sentences and said, "I told you, I found a new love. I'm in a hurry to get married, so we need to divorce immediately. Sign it quickly." Sophia rolled her eyes, took out a stack of papers from the drawer, and said, James, your car's dash cam shows that you haven't been home these days. You've just been to the apartment you lived in before marriage. Your movement track is so simple that it seems you have nowhere else to go. Sophia closed the papers, her eyes determined, and said word by word, you don't have an ex-partner at all. You want to divorce me just to threaten me to stay away from David. I suddenly understood how helpless the person who coined the idiom talk to a brick wall must have felt. I sat down and called David. Sophia asked, why are you calling him? I said, ask him to come up and have a chat. Sure enough, David arrived quickly and demanded, James, what do you mean? Sophia is already very sad. Isn't it enough to bully her at home? Do you have to come to the company to cause trouble? James, although you're my brother, business is business. If you dare to act recklessly in the company, I'll definitely. Shut up and just listen here. I interrupted him and continued, Sophia. I turned to her and smiled, now that everyone is here, tell me, do you can't bear to part with me? What? She looked at me in confusion. I said, you said you lost your memory and don't remember who I am, only remembering David. But as soon as I mention divorce, you keep putting it off. Isn't that because you can't bear to part with me? Or is it that the memory loss is fake, and you actually remember everything about being with me, so you don't want to sign the divorce agreement, right? I looked at David and said, what should I do? I didn't know Sophia loved me so much. Sophia shouted in a panic, David, don't listen to him. It's not like that. Sophia. David seemed to be taken aback by my words. Sophia's face turned very ugly, as if I had hit on some hidden secret. After a while, she said, James, I originally thought that since we were husband and wife, getting a divorce just because I lost my memory was unfair to you, so I didn't sign. I was being kind-hearted, but you say such things to me. I don't know you at all, and I don't love you. You're just a stranger to me. If you really want to divorce, then fine. Sophia picked up the pen and signed the agreement impulsively, then snorted and said, but James, don't regret it. Afraid that Sophia would go back on her word, I dragged her to the Civil Affairs Bureau as soon as she signed. I said, pick up the divorce certificate in a month. Don't be late. Sophia gave me a cold look and left. Looking at Sophia's back, I said to myself, what is she so angry about? Didn't she desperately want a divorce in the previous life? The system asked in confusion, what previous life? Oh, I forgot. This system doesn't have the memory of the previous life. A few days later, Olivia called me and asked me to go to a place. I went and found it was Olivia's high-end custom-made clothing store. The clerk said, hello, Mr. James. Ms. Olivia told me that although the bride is in charge of the wedding details, you can't be a bystander. Since you're a professional in clothing design, we'll leave the clothing matters to you. I nodded and called Olivia, asking, Ms. Olivia, what kind of wedding dress do you want me to design for you? Do you have any specific requirements? Olivia replied, I trust Mr. James' taste. My only requirement is to give me a surprise. When I got married to Sophia in the past, she didn't like my designs and insisted on choosing the wedding dress and gown that my brother had chosen. This time, I could finally design my own gown and Olivia's wedding dress. I spent 2 whole days and nights in the store, trying on, measuring, and drawing. I carefully considered every detail, adjusted the arrangement of every embroidery, and strived for the perfect setting of every piece of lace. Every inch, from the waistline to the flare of the fishtail, from the hem to the arc of the skirt corner, was modified countless times. Finally, when I saw the finished product, I thought that Olivia would look like a princess in this wedding dress. At this moment, the phone rang. I thought it was Olivia and answered it without thinking. The person on the other end said, Chloe has a fever. Come back immediately. It was Sophia's voice. I was speechless. I took a deep breath and forced myself to maintain the decency of a civilized person. I said, we're already divorced. Chloe is in your care. Taking care of her is your business. The next second, David snatched the phone and said, James, Chloe is your daughter after all. She's sick. How can you say such a thing? So he was there. That made it easier. I said, I can't come. Brother, don't you like Chloe the most? Don't you want to be her father? Then listen. When the child is sick, you have to take her to the hospital, find a doctor, handle the procedures, pay the bills, be the child's support and the backbone of your wife. You have to stay by the child's bedside, play stories from the Moonlit Story House channel for her, and take her temperature every half an hour. Oh, by the way, this child will vomit after taking medicine when she's sick, and it will be everywhere. You have to take good care of her, just like taking care of your own father. Don't mind if she vomits on you. David replied, why are you telling me this? You're her father. Of course, you should come back and deal with it. Chloe, don't vomit on me. I said impatiently, all right. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up. James. Sophia's indignant voice came. She said, the child is so uncomfortable and keeps asking for her father. Do you really have to be so heartless? I rubbed my temples and said, I told you I'm busy. Sophia asked in confusion, what are you busy with? Just then, the clerk came over and asked me, Mr. James, is this cufflink suitable for the wedding? The other end of the phone fell silent. After a moment, Sophia asked in disbelief, what are you doing? I told Sophia word by word, I'm preparing for my wedding. In the following days, Sophia didn't call me again. Olivia and I were preparing for the wedding while discussing the next design and marketing plan for Olivia's clothing. Exploring new territory made me very excited. Because new ideas kept popping up in my mind, the two of us often talked until midnight. I found many shining points in her, such as being serious, shrewd, and sincere. How could such a nice girl be a villain? A month later, Sophia and I made an appointment to pick up the divorce certificate. At the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, she stared at me and asked, do you really have an ex-partner? I nodded and replied, yes. Sophia bit her lip and said, betraying the marriage and finding a lover, don't you feel guilty towards me at all? I couldn't help but laugh. I said, why should I feel guilty? So you mean that you can have all sorts of ambiguities with my brother during the marriage, and because you lost your memory, it doesn't count as betraying the marriage? Come on, Sophia. Since you don't remember me, why should I remember? Isn't it better for us to find someone else? She replied, I actually. Sophia. David came over from a distance, put his arm around Sophia's shoulder, and said, is it done? I've made all the arrangements. Later, we'll have a good meal with Chloe to celebrate your regained freedom. Sophia shook her head and said, not yet. I said, hurry up. I took the lead and walked into the Civil Affairs Bureau. The staff asked, have you two thought it through? I said, yes. Sophia didn't say anything. Sophia suddenly turned back and asked me, James, have you really thought it through? Once we get the certificate, we'll have nothing to do with each other anymore. I sighed and said, can you stop being so indecisive? David is waiting for you outside. Sophia still said her own words, I just want to know, does our 5-year marriage mean nothing to you? We even have a child. Aren't Chloe and I worthy of your nostalgia? I looked at this woman I had loved for many years. In the previous life, I didn't want a divorce, but Sophia thought I was pestering her. In this life, I took the initiative to divorce, and she thought I was too heartless. Do they, the main characters, get to have all the reasons? I said slowly, no, the past 5 years were precious to me. Sophia suddenly looked up, and a glimmer of hope seemed to flash in her eyes. I continued, after all, it took me 5 years to understand the truth, a lovesick fool will end up with nothing. Until we got the divorce certificate and came out, Sophia's face didn't look good. David put his arm around her and asked, finally done. It took so long. Were there a lot of people? Sophia replied, her head down, not really. Just then, Sophia's phone rang. She answered it, and her face instantly turned pale. She grabbed my sleeve and demanded, James, you made the entire design team leave and poached my important customers? I nodded and replied, yes. Sophia asked in confusion, why? I smiled and said, why are you so nervous? Isn't thunder the result of the hard work of the Sophia family? What difference does it make if we lose a design team and some unimportant customers? Sophia said with red eyes, we were husband and wife. How can you turn your back on me like this? David tried to persuade her, Sophia, it's not a big deal. It's just a design team. I'm also a designer. I'll form a new one for you right away. Unexpectedly, Sophia pushed David's hand away and cried, James, you're so heartless. You know very well that the autumn new product launch is coming soon, and at this time. Sophia was really nagging. It wasn't a big deal. I ignored her and waved to the distance, shouting, over here, Olivia. I'm here. Olivia, wearing sunglasses, walked over and asked, is it done? I smiled and replied, yes. Sophia asked in confusion, Olivia, what are you doing here? Olivia glanced at Sophia, and a hint of cunning flashed in her eyes. Olivia coquettishly took my arm and said to Sophia, I'm here to find my fiancé. Sophia was stunned and pointed at me, asking, who is your fiancé? Him. Olivia nestled into my arms, yawned, and said, haven't seen you for a while, Sophia. Are your eyesight getting bad? Seemingly enraged, Sophia trembled all over and said, you. James, how can you treat me like this? David quickly pulled Sophia into his arms and comforted her softly. Olivia and I looked at each other, then got in the car and left. Olivia said, "They seem to be very angry with you. Is it because of the design team leaving?" I nodded and said, "There's another thing. If she knows about it, she might even vomit blood later." Olivia asked, "What is it?" I sighed and said, "Before the design team left, I asked them to drown the money tree in front of the door, the one Sophia loves the most." The news of my marriage to Olivia spread quickly. Unexpectedly, the most intense reaction came from my parents. They cursed, "You divorced, and that's fine. But why is your remarriage partner the rival of Thunder? Your brother has just entered Thunder, and you're causing trouble for Sophia and your brother. How could we have a son like you? Come back quickly and kneel down to apologize to your brother and Sophia. We don't have a son like you. If you don't come back, we'll cut off the parent-child relationship with you." So, as they wished, I went home with the severance of parent-child relationship agreement, followed by bodyguards. I said expressionlessly, "If you sign here, we'll completely cut off the parent-child relationship. Anyway, they're not really my parents." My mother covered her chest, crying about the sin, and my father, furious, signed the paper. He said, "We shouldn't have brought you back in the first place. I've heard that Olivia is no good. She's just a mistress's illegitimate daughter. Like mother, like daughter." Her mother died, and Olivia took over the Olivia family's property, sending her biological father to a nursing home. "You'll see. When you end up in a miserable state, don't come to us. We won't recognize you as our son." I nodded and said, "Thank you for the reminder. Then I should learn more from her." My father was immediately speechless. A childish voice came, "Dad is a traitor to the family." Suddenly, Chloe rushed out with a water gun and sprayed at me. I looked at her and said, "Sorry, kid. I'm not your dad anymore." With that, I motioned to the bodyguard to take away her toy water gun and throw it aside, then turned and left. She cried loudly behind me. On the wedding day, I wore a white suit that I designed myself. Looking back, Olivia walked slowly towards me in that mermaid-style wedding dress. The smooth lines gracefully extended along her body, the waistline was slender and natural, and the fishtail hem was dreamy. Every step she took seemed to stir halos in the air. Layers of soft tulle undulated like ocean waves, accentuating her cold and noble charm. Exquisite embroidery and delicate beadwork sparkled with every gentle turn of hers, as if the whole world revolved around her steps. Before going on stage, Olivia asked me what I was thinking. I said, "In the past, I wholeheartedly wanted to be good to everyone. But now I understand that I should first be good to myself and then to others. I determine my relationships. The relationships between me and others are solely decided by me." Olivia nodded and said, "When you meet disgusting people, don't treat them like human beings. Anyway, they don't act like humans." I wholeheartedly agreed, feeling like I had found a kindred spirit. The wedding was grand, magnificent, and joyous. In the middle of the night, I was sound asleep when I was woken up by a phone call. On the other end of the line was a drunk Sophia. She sobbed and asked, "James, I don't understand. What exactly am I lacking compared to Olivia? Why did you choose her out of all people? She's far inferior to me." I said expressionlessly, "Are you crazy? Right, she's far inferior to you. Married but pining after your brother-in-law, divorced but still thinking about your ex-husband. You're so outstanding. Does David know you're calling me?" Then I hung up the phone directly. The next time I saw Sophia was at a business reception. Olivia was on my arm, and David was holding Sophia's hand. It should have been a harmonious scene, but Sophia deliberately came over to pick a fight. Sophia said, "Actually, I've always wanted to ask Ms. Olivia how you seduced James and made him infatuated with you." Sophia emphasized the word seduced clearly, her tone full of mockery and disdain. I loosened my cuffs, clenched my fists, and said to David, "Your girlfriend really has a sharp tongue. If you can't shut her up, I don't mind teaching her a lesson." Both Sophia and David were stunned for a moment and subconsciously flinched. I was about to say more, but Olivia tugged at my arm, indicating that I shouldn't be impulsive. I suppressed my anger. Olivia smiled and said to Sophia, "Miss Sophia, you're joking. We're a legal couple." Whether it was the word legal or couple, it seemed to break Sophia's composure again. Sophia said again, "Then Ms. Olivia should know how affectionate we were in the past 5 years and that we have a lovely daughter, right?" Olivia smiled and said, "Didn't Ms. Sophia lose her memory? How can you still remember that it was affectionate? If you were really affectionate, why did James dump you as soon as he heard you lost your memory?" Olivia casually flipped her hair, and coincidentally, a small red mark on her neck was revealed. After all, we were too excited making love last night. When Sophia saw this, her eyes immediately turned red. Sophia blushed instantly and retorted, "You don't know anything. He was happy with me." I replied impatiently, "How do you know I was happy with you? Didn't you lose your memory?" Olivia tugged at me again and asked, "Shall we go back?" I said, "Sure." Suddenly, Sophia shouted at us, "James, you've been deceived by her. She's a bitch, a slut." The crowd gasped, and in an instant, everyone's attention was drawn to us. I turned around and shouted sternly, "Sophia, I really admire your shamelessness. You had an affair during the marriage, hung out with that scumbag, and yet you can still brazenly slander others. Let me ask you, who could be more excessive than you? You flirted with your husband's brother and even made your daughter recognize your lover as her father. Is there anyone more absurd than you in this world? I advise you not to ask for trouble. After all, among these scumbags, you're not that outstanding." With that, I turned around and left. Just then, regardless of David's dissuasion, Sophia rushed up with red eyes, like a madwoman, reaching out to pull Olivia's hair and shouting, "Olivia, you stole my husband, you slut." I was about to step forward to stop her when Olivia firmly caught Sophia's soft hand. The next second, Olivia deftly twisted it, bending Sophia's hand into a contorted shape. I secretly sighed. Olivia was a martial artist. Wasn't Sophia courting death? Amidst Sophia's howls of pain, I heard Olivia's voice, tinged with a smile, "Miss Sophia, instead of crying and making a scene like a heroine in a romance drama, you'd better worry more about the survival of the Sophia family." I couldn't help but think in my heart that Olivia was really a nice girl. Even at this moment, she still reminded the opponent to face reality. After this farce, Olivia and I drove home. She was drowsy, and I hesitated to speak, "Tonight." Olivia's face instantly turned red, and she whispered, "I'm willing to try that position you mentioned last time tonight." I quickly added, "I meant discussing the plan for the autumn launch tonight." When Olivia heard this, she visibly wilted and mumbled, "Work? Well, okay then." I was speechless. Indeed, my marriage with Olivia was a bit like a contractual marriage at first, but honesty became the principle and mode of our relationship. On the first night of our marriage, I was still hesitating whether to ask Olivia if she needed to sleep in a separate bed. Before I could ask, she pulled me onto the bed and said, "What kind of couple doesn't sleep together? I didn't marry a statue." In the following days, our married life was as normal as it could be. In short, we lived happily together without internal strife, but unfortunately, the bed at home often needed to be repaired. After that reception, I didn't see Sophia for a long time. 3 months later, the autumn launch was a huge success. The market share of Olivia Group's clothing in October exceeded that of Thunder for the first time. However, in November, Thunder suddenly launched a new series called Enchanted, with the new chief designer David in charge of the overall design. As soon as this Enchanted series was launched, it was well received, and David even went on TV for an interview. David talked eloquently in front of the camera. The Enchanted series stems from my understanding of love. Its logo design concept is two hearts closely connected. When I heard this, wasn't this the design draft I casually made for a small foreign clothing manufacturer before I married Sophia? Where on earth did David dig it out from? I immediately called that small clothing factory. The other side was both surprised and delighted and immediately initiated the rights protection process. A month later, the Enchanted series was completely taken off the shelves, and Thunder was plunged into an infringement lawsuit. Olivia was very loyal and lent her best lawyer to that clothing factory for free. Just then, I received a call from my parents. They scolded me harshly, "Your brother has been severely harmed by your old crappy draft. Why did you give him that draft? Come and testify in court immediately. Say that you gave it to him voluntarily." I was full of confusion and baffled. I hung up the phone and blocked them. After this incident, Thunder was severely damaged. I heard that Sophia was extremely angry about David's plagiarism, and the two fell into a cold war. Perhaps David wanted to completely control Sophia. At a drinking party, he forced Sophia to drink a lot of alcohol. After sending her back to the room, he tried to have sex with her to make her pregnant. To avoid being disturbed by Chloe, he casually gave Sophia's phone to Chloe to play with. Who would have thought that Chloe knew the phone password? In order to play the game of pretending to be the president, Chloe opened the company's video conference and actually broadcasted live what David had done to drug Sophia and what followed. This video quickly spread on the internet and became a topic of curiosity and gossip among people. After Sophia woke up, she had a huge argument with David, and the two completely broke up. In the following days, Olivia and I became more and more. Sometimes when I was in the middle of drawing a design and looked up, she would know that I wanted to drink water. Under our combined pressure, Thunder soon couldn't hold on. The core design team left one after another, and the other departments were also in low spirits. They lost several big orders in a row. Another year passed, and the spring new product launch was held. As the company's chief designer, I went on stage to introduce the design concept. The theme this time is self-interest. People always pursue what they like because we first need to meet our own needs. Therefore, we hope that everyone first considers themselves, first understands themselves, and first loves themselves. If you don't consider your own feelings first, how can you understand the feelings of others? A person who doesn't love themselves can't truly love others. So, never waste time on unworthy people. But remember, make sure that the people worthy of your efforts also make you feel that your efforts are worthwhile. Just like me, I was once confused and doubtful, but I finally found myself and also found my beloved wife. Now I'm very happy. So I also hope that more male friends can understand that sincere dedication is important, but love should not come at the cost of sacrificing oneself. We can spend money and give gifts to our lovers, but the premise is not to put ourselves in a humble position. Now, why not ask yourselves, how long has it been since you gave yourself a gift? The launch was a great success, and the sales volume that night reached a new high. In the evening, I was holding a wine glass, closing my eyes and relaxing, when Olivia suddenly jumped into my arms like a little rabbit. I opened my eyes and met her loving gaze. She rubbed her nose against mine and said, "Mr. James, the launch was wonderful." I nodded proudly, naturally. Olivia said again, "You said you found a beloved wife and are living a happy life." I smiled and hugged Olivia tightly, saying, "What? Can I praise you?" Olivia smiled softly. After a moment, she whispered, "Today, I suddenly felt that you're so dazzling. I kind of want to lock you up so that only I can see you. What should I do?" The system, which had been silent for a long time, suddenly popped up. "See? I said she has an obsessive love disorder. She'll want to imprison you and monopolize you. You won't be happy with her." I casually spent 20 points to mute it again. At this time, Olivia was taking off my tie and clumsily tying it around my hands one loop at a time. I was amused by Olivia's serious look. I thought to myself, how could I not have noticed such a lovely girl in my previous life? Olivia was dangerous yet charming, honest and passionate. I took the tie from her hand. She was stunned for a moment and asked in confusion, "Huh? How did you untie it?" I replied, "That doesn't matter." I raised my hand, covered her eyes with the tie, and gently kissed her earlobe, whispering, "I know you like this." Thunder's performance plummeted, and David's design company was on the verge of bankruptcy due to plagiarism. David accused Sophia of seducing him and ruining his marriage. Sophia wrote a long post on the internet, crying that David was the one who destroyed her marriage and ruined her reputation. The two argued non-stop on social media. David's parents wouldn't let Sophia go, insisting that it was all because of Sophia, this troublemaker, that the brothers turned against each other and the father-son relationship was severed. They demanded that she hand over 50% of the company's shares before they would give up. Sophia, being timid and cowardly, was forced into a corner and jumped off the second-floor balcony in a panic, breaking her leg. That night, when I was half asleep, I received a strange call. The person on the other end seemed to have a hoarse voice from crying and kept saying, "James, I actually remember everything. Why didn't I cherish you? I'm so regretful, really regretful. How did we end up like this?" Olivia was woken up by the phone and asked, "Who was that?" I hung up the phone and said, "A harassing call." A few days later, another call came. It was my father. He said, "James, your birthday is coming up. Mom and I have cooked delicious food for you. Come back and we'll celebrate together as a family. Oh, bring Olivia along too." I replied indifferently, "Old man, do I need to send you the severance of parent-child relationship agreement again?" Then I hung up the phone. Olivia looked at me and said, "You seem to be getting a lot of harassing calls lately." I sighed and blocked this number as well. One day, Olivia and I passed by Chloe's kindergarten and found her being bullied by several older children. Those children said, "Hey, isn't this Chloe, who used to be so rich? Why are you picking up trash? Why doesn't your uncle come to back you up?" Chloe burst into tears and shouted, "My dad is James. He's a big boss and very rich. Don't look down on me. I'll ask my dad to teach you a lesson." Olivia turned to me and asked, "Should we intervene?" I shook my head and said, "Let's go." Later, our clothing business grew bigger and bigger. One day, a colleague from the PR department told me that there was a live streaming room selling fake goods under our brand. I was wondering who was so bold. When I checked, I found that the manager of the live streaming room was actually David, and the host was my parents. They were showing off with my childhood photos, were the parents of James, the chief designer of the clothing brand. "That's why we can offer you guys an insider price." Olivia asked me how I wanted to handle it. I said, go through legal procedures directly. Make them pay for compensation and serve their sentences if necessary. No reconciliation. The live streaming room was quickly shut down, and the lawyer filed a lawsuit. A few days later, the three of them came to the company gate to make trouble, shouting through a loudspeaker, "James, how can you treat your parents like this? Where's your conscience?" I ignored them and called the police directly. Later, the three were detained for causing a disturbance, and more lawsuits and compensation awaited them. One day, I got a bottle of good red wine and went home earlier than Olivia. The system asked in confusion, "What are you doing hiding in the closet?" I gently closed the cabinet door and said, "Just having some fun, giving her a surprise." The system snorted, "Are you two having too much fun? Always coming up with new tricks every day." I replied, "Say one more word of nonsense, and I'll mute you." It protested, "Points aren't used like this." I said, "Get lost." Just then, Olivia came back. I quickly kept quiet and secretly peeked at her through the crack of the door. She was standing with her back to me in front of the window. The system asked beside me, "What's wrong? Are you already mesmerized? Do you like her that much?" Just as I was about to tell it to shut up, I suddenly heard Olivia seem to be talking. I was stunned because she said, "System, am I about to succeed?" I stood there in a daze, unable to hear how Olivia's system replied. But from her words, I knew that Olivia was also a strategist. However, the judgment condition for her to succeed in the strategy was to defeat Sophia and make her go bankrupt. I asked, "System, did you already know she was also a strategist, so you didn't let me pursue her?" The system stammered and refused to answer. Now I understood that in the original setting, Olivia and I were somewhat in a zero-sum game. If I successfully pursued Sophia and lived a happy life with her, and we worked together as a couple, the Sophia family might not go bankrupt with my help. Similarly, if Olivia brought down Sophia, with Sophia's proud character, she would never live a poor life with me, and my pursuit would most likely end in failure. Only one of us could win. Now, I suddenly opened the cabinet door. Olivia turned around, looking puzzled. "James?" Meeting her slightly surprised gaze, I smiled and raised the red wine in my hand, saying, "I heard everything. Congratulations on your successful strategy." Olivia was a bit flustered and said, "Let me explain." I interrupted Olivia and continued, "It doesn't matter because I am too." She was stunned and asked, "What?" I said, "Tonight, we should have a good talk." Olivia said that in the original world, her mother was framed and forced to divorce. In order to give Olivia the best education, her mother took on many jobs and died of overwork at an early age. When she grew up, she returned to the Olivia family and fought for power with her half-brother. Eventually, she defeated everyone and became the head of the Olivia family. She also sent the stepmother who had framed her mother to prison. But she herself was so exhausted that she finally fell into a coma. Presumably, feeling her strong unwillingness, the system came to ask if she was willing to come to this world as a strategist. Olivia turned to me and asked, "James, how did you end up here?" I sighed and said, "You remind me of my mother in my original world. Coincidentally, I'm from a single-parent family too. When I was a kid, my mom sacrificed a lot for me. Later, she met a guy who was interested in her, but his family didn't approve of him being with a woman who had a child. I knew my mom liked him, and I didn't want her to give up her happiness because of me, so I left on my own. I only sent her things to let her know I was okay during festivals. Later, she got married and had my younger brother and sister. I secretly went to check on her and was glad to see she was doing well. I haven't been in touch with her for a long time. Fortunately, she doesn't know I was sick." Olivia put down her wine glass and hugged me, saying, "She must be happy to have you as her son." Just then, Olivia's phone suddenly received a message. Thunder officially declared bankruptcy. "Olivia, the mission is accomplished." Olivia asked me, what was my mission target? I didn't tell her the truth and said, "I've actually completed my mission. I just think it's nice here, so I don't plan to go back." The system seemed confused. I said, "What's the point of telling her? I haven't completed my mission yet, which means I'm not the most important person in her heart. It's not something that can be achieved just because I tell her and she feels sorry for me." The system said, "Telling her might increase the chances of success." I shook my head and said, "System, I don't want to humble myself to pursue anyone anymore." A few days later, Olivia's system urged her to claim the reward and return to her original world. She came to discuss it with me. I nodded and said, "I agree. You've been here for so long. If you don't go back, your brother might take away everything you've worked so hard for." Olivia looked at me and said, "But I'm a bit worried about you." I shrugged and said, "What's there to worry about? I can manage such a big company here. I'll have more money than I can spend in this lifetime. I'm more than happy. Olivia asked, looking puzzled, is this really what you want? I nodded and replied, yeah, I'm very sure. So, Olivia transferred the company to her younger sister who had just returned to this world, and bought a plane ticket to leave. On the day she left, it was drizzling. I didn't go to see her off. The system said in my ear, once she leaves, it means your mission fails completely. I nodded and said, yeah. It continued, see? I told you not to choose her. There's no good end to it, but you just wouldn't listen. I smiled and said, system, you know what? This period of time has been the most enjoyable for me in this world. I don't have to be a pushover, and I don't need others to like me. I can just be myself, never compromise, take revenge when I want to, and enjoy life. I think it's worth it. The system sighed and said, actually, I secretly checked the data. You were almost there with Olivia. How about I apply to see if you can stay in this world? But you'll definitely have to change your identity, and you won't be able to keep your wealth. I said, sure, thanks. I looked up, and the rain got heavier. I had no umbrella, so I thought, well, getting wet in the rain isn't so bad. Anyway, I didn't have much time left. I sat on a park bench, looked up, closed my eyes, and let the rain run down my face. Suddenly, an umbrella appeared over my head. I opened my eyes, and there was Olivia, who should have been on the plane, standing in front of me with an umbrella. I stared at her in surprise and said, how come? Olivia held the umbrella and said, I noticed it was raining before boarding. I was afraid you'd go out without an umbrella, so I came back. See? I was right. I was speechless and said, I just like getting wet in the rain. Won't you miss your flight? Unexpectedly, Olivia's eyes reddened, and she said, James, it's not easy to meet someone you like in a lifetime. She sat down next to me, sighed, and said, today, looking at the rain, just thinking about you walking with another girl in such rainy days in the future makes me want to do something. She tilted her head and said, so, I think I'll stay and watch over you. I was stunned and said, what are you talking about? Don't you care about your concerns in the original world anymore? Olivia nodded and replied, yeah, I don't. Looking back, those things don't seem that important. Seeing you makes me happier. I said helplessly, are you crazy? Isn't this being love-struck? Don't you get it? Olivia said softly, aren't you love-struck too? So, aren't we a perfect match? Suddenly, with a snap, the street light went out. In the darkness, I pressed my lips against her warm ones and hugged her tightly. At that moment, a voice suddenly came from above, congratulations, host. You've successfully completed the mission of taming the evil female character. Both you and Olivia can go home now. We handed over the company to Olivia's younger sister who had just returned to this world and then boarded a plane to leave together. On the last day in this world, we hugged each other in the snow, looking at the magnificent aurora in the distance. As a meteor streaked across the sky, a familiar voice came from the aurora, I'm the system master. Congratulations, 2 players. Next, I'll activate the time-space tunnel to send you back to your original world and give you healthy bodies. James, because you chose a player as your mission target, the difficulty doubled. After success, you can get rich extra points. What do you want to exchange for? I looked up at the sky and asked, Master, I've always had a question. The system master replied, go ahead. I said, the day I was reborn, I heard your voice saying that I was reborn because I completed the marriage mission and got extra points. But I shouldn't have had any points at that time. I want to know, where did the points for my rebirth come from? The system master seemed to be silent for a while, then slowly said, it was your mother in your original world. After a pause, it continued, actually, not long after you fell into a coma, your mother noticed something was wrong and has been staying by your side in the hospital. When you were about to be erased from this world, your original body also had acute failure. Your mother had a dream about your failed mission. She knelt down and prayed, willing to exchange 10 years of her life for a chance for you to try again. Tears welled up in my eyes and streamed down almost uncontrollably. It was my mother. It was actually my mother, the one who had always loved me deeply and never given up on me. I choked back my sobs and said, can I exchange all these points for my mom's lifespan? The system master answered, sure. It can add a total of 20 years to her lifespan. Olivia beside me hugged me tightly and said softly, James, let's go home to see Mom. That night, the aurora was incredibly beautiful. Olivia and I held hands and set foot on the way home together. Doctor! Doctor! Come quickly! My son is moving, he's moving. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying on a hospital bed, and my mother, who had been by my side all the time, was there. James, it's Mom. Mom has been here all along. Mom! I reached out my hand, held her palm, and smiled slightly, saying, I'm back. She nodded desperately, and tears kept streaming down her face. Next, a series of examinations were carried out. The doctor exclaimed, it's a miracle, truly a miracle. There's not a single problem with your body anymore. A little nurse beside whispered with a smile, I told you this hospital has good feng shui. Ms. Olivia in the VIP ward just woke up too. The doctor asked, is it the one from the Olivia family? The nurse replied, exactly. Everyone said she was beyond saving and had been relying on a ventilator to survive, but she suddenly got better. Just after waking up, she seemed a bit confused. I heard she asked the Olivia family to find a guy named James all over the city right away. I don't know if he's an enemy or what. I stared blankly and asked, what did you say? Who's looking for whom? The little nurse came closer, grinning, and said, Mr. James, your name sounds the same. Be careful not to get caught by mistake. I quickly grabbed the nurse's arm and asked, where's the VIP ward? The nurse replied, on the 16th floor. I jumped off the bed at once. The nurse shouted from behind, Mr. James, your shoes. I took the elevator and rushed to the 16th floor as fast as I could. The VIP ward was at the end of the corridor. I pushed the door open forcefully. There were quite a few people in the room, but none of them was Olivia. The nearby hospital bed was empty. Someone came up and asked, Sir, who are you? I smiled bitterly and said, I might have come to the wrong place. The next second, a familiar voice came from behind, he's James. I turned around abruptly. There she was, standing behind me, wearing a hospital gown. She was a bit thinner than before, but still as beautiful as ever. Our eyes met, and we smiled at each other. I walked up to her and hugged her tightly. James. She whispered in my ear, for the wedding here, should I still wear the mermaid-style dress?